Good afternoon, everyone. We are about to resume. Just a reminder to all members of the media, once you've taken your shots, there's a line for the media, which is 2 rows back. Please respect that. Thank you. And please, members of the public, switch off your cell phones. Thank you.
Ms. Sello.
Yes, Chair.
Why the change of position?
I'm following my leader.
Because there I am, I'm looking there.
I know. This is a preference my leader has, so I'll have to follow her lead.
Thank you. Yes.
Afternoon, before
yes.
We turn to that, afternoon, Chair, for purposes of the record, I understand Brigadier Majeng was committed or subpoenaed for today. I am informed that he has filed his statement. It's a she, right? She has filed her statement and is released from appearing. We propose that she be released from appearing today, and she will be given a new date on which to appear. So if the commissioners could approve that.
Obviously in the new year then, or not?
In the new year, Chair.
Thank you.
Secondly, we this afternoon start with the testimony of Minister Senzo Mchunu. Before we get into that, it is necessary that I place some issues on record and request that the commissioners approve the approach we are adopting. Due to changes that we had to effect to our programming, the result is we are starting with Minister Mchunu this afternoon. But we already have a witness under subpoena for tomorrow. And we have engaged with Minister Mchunu and his legal representatives. And the agreement is as follows. Minister Mchunu will start this afternoon. And in the course of the afternoon, he will give evidence, his version of the issues, uninterrupted and unquestioned in large part by the evidence leaders. He will be testifying in this session of the Commission strictly on matters pertaining to the PKTT. So when he does eventually address the commissioners, it will be on the PKTT. He has submitted a statement, and it's expected that to a large extent, it will follow what he has in the statement. But today, we shall not be engaged by the evidence leaders. He then has to come back for the second day. But because of this witness that is already under subpoena for tomorrow, we have requested, and Mr. Mchunu and his team have graciously agreed that after today, he stand down to Thursday. So we'll interpose his testimony by bringing the other witness tomorrow, which is an EMPD-related witness. We believe that it can work and it shouldn't necessarily cause confusion, because we hope that Minister Mchunu would have finished with putting forward his version of events when he addresses the question of PKTT, so that when we reconvene on the Thursday coming, then the engagement with the evidence leaders starts. If that accords with the commissioners, we propose that we approach the testimony in that manner.
And by engagement, you mean pointed questions?
Pointed questions by evidence leaders. As I say, today we will resist engaging him pointedly on these matters and to give him the opportunity to put forward his version on the matter. And I emphasize by the evidence leaders, because it is not my place to dictate to the commissioners how they deal with that. I thought just to share what the thinking is. and we're in the Commission's hands insofar as that is concerned.
You say the pointed questions will start on Thursday, and my sense is that you are saying in the morning on Thursday.
In the morning, so we expect on
So-
Thursday to run the normal day.
So that means you are hoping that the evidence today on the PKTT will be completed. Is that the idea? I've seen, my experience here is that for a whole day, we take only about 12 pages of a statement. So unless you tell me that the minister's statement on the PKTT is around 12 pages, and that's the whole day, by the way. Now we
It
have
is.
only the afternoon, so...
Chair, in discussion with Minister Mchunu and his legal representatives, I put it no higher than to say it is a hope.
It is a hope. All right, all right.
And to the extent that it is impossible to achieve, we will then have to contend with a rollover to Thursday, hopefully morning,
Yes,
to allow
yes,
for
yes.
a proper engagement thereafter.
Thank you.
And I'm not in a position to give any guarantees
No,
beyond
I-
that.
I understand perfectly.
Thank you, Chair.
I understand perfectly. Thank
On
you.
that score, Minister Mchunu is represented by Advocate Ngcukaitobi SC, instructed by Mr. Sandile July of Worksmans. And if we may invite Advocate Ngcukaitobi to place himself and his team on record. Thank you, Chair.
Please. Good afternoon, Mr. Ngcukaitobi.
Good afternoon, Chair. Thank you for the attention, and your fellow commissioners, I greet them as well. My name is Tembeka Ngcukaitobi. I am acting on behalf of Mr. Senzo Mchunu, the current Minister of Police. My juniors are Advocate Natalie Kezibutelezi and an advocate who is known to one of your commissioners, Advocate Mkhwanazi Lengane. We are instructed by Mr. Sandile July from Worksmans.
Thank you, Mr. Ngcukaitobi.
Thank you,
Might
Chair.
I add one point to my learned friend's preliminary issues? We have asked for an opportunity to re-examine. My understanding is that it's not objected to. We have arranged that it should be done if we exercise it on Friday from 2 p.m.
That's in order, Mr. Ngcukaitobi.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. We are ready to lead a testimony of Minister Mchunu, and that will be done today by Advocate Lee Sigal Ncube. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Law. Yes.
Thank you, Chair.
Yes.
Chair, the Minister will take the oath.
Good afternoon, Minister.
Good afternoon to you.
Please place your full names on record.
My name is Senzo Mchunu.
Thank you. Do you swear that the evidence you are going to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
Thank you, Minister.
Chair, if I could just ask the Minister to please bring the microphone closer to him and
Yeah,
keep
please-
it on.
Please pull both if
Yes.
if they are pullable. I don't know if there is such a word.
And Chair, you would
Towards you, Minister. I think I saw you pushing them away. Please pull them towards
closer to you.
you. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, I thought that before we start the Minister's evidence, if he could just explain the reason why he has an earpiece in case there may be questions as to the reason for the earpiece.
Is it necessary? Is it necessary? Really? Oh, yeah, please, then, Minister.
Thank you very much, Chair of the Commission and Commissioners. I've just have a slight problem with my left ear, and then I requested that I enhance my hearing. It's nothing abnormal, but for purposes of this commission, I wanted to pick up every word and ensure that I am with the commission.
I don't know whether it's me, Minister. Maybe I also need an earpiece. Then it's a bit hard for me to hear you. I've heard every word though, but
okay.
I somehow have to strain.
I need to raise my voice when I
Please,
speak.
Please, thank you.
I will do so, I promise.
Thank you.
Chair, they just want to assist the Minister to increase the volume on his microphone.
Just want to.
Sorry, testing 1, 2.
You can switch it on, Minister. Thank you. Minister, you would have been provided with files in front of you marked 1 of 5 to 5 of 5. And the first file is 1 of 5, which should contain a statement. I just want to confirm that you have file 1 of 5 with you, in front of you. And
Yes.
if you can confirm
Yes.
that from page 1 to 92 of that, that's your statement for purposes of your evidence
Yes, I
today.
confirm.
And do you confirm the contents of the statement and the accuracy thereof?
Yes, I do.
Now, if we could start, you have the introduction section starting at paragraph 1, but if I could ask you to start on page 4, which is page 2 of the statement, paginated page 2, which deals with, if we can just orientate ourselves as to the pagination system, and then what you have in front of you. I will be referring to the paginated pages of your statement. On at paragraph 8 of your statement, you start dealing with your personal background and appointment as the Minister of Police. Prior to that, you have some introductory comments, but I would like for you to just briefly summarize your personal background and the events leading up to your appointment as Minister of Police, very briefly, please.
Thank you very much once more, Chair and Commissioners. My name is indicated earlier is Senzo Mchunu, and I was born at Hlabisa and went to high school, and then started working as a teacher a number of years, and then went to be full-time in the African National Congress in 1991. And after that, worked in other provincial structures, and then became MSc in 2008, and then Premier in 2013, and then 2013, the same year, 2013 to 2016. And then I broke from May 2016 and the whole of 2017. I was unemployed, and then got employed in 2018 in March by the African National Congress at head office, and then up to the elections of 2019, after which I got appointed as Minister of Public Service up to 2021, and then on the 5th of August 2021, I was then appointed as Minister of Water and Sanitation, after which up to the general elections in 2024, and then post-elections I was appointed by the President as Minister of Police.
And then,
currently I'm on leave. I'm on special leave.
and then in the introductory paragraphs, you deal with matters which you say at paragraph 4 and 5 of your statement. You say that there are aspects that you are not in a position to speak to. If you could just explain to us why you say you're not in a position to speak to those matters and what those matters are at paragraph 4 and 5 of your statement.
Well, I'm saying on paragraph 4, to start with, I'm not in a position to speak about operational decisions taken by SAPS members without my involvement or knowledge, in case there are specific matters that arise that fit in this description. I won't be able to speak on those, simply because as Minister, I don't necessarily direct, approve, or participate in operational policing decisions or activities like operations that from time to time police decide on wherever in the country. I don't deal with those. And any interference or suggestion that I played a role in authorizing or coordinating operational decisions, including who to arrest and where, and then raids, when to do a raid and not when to do a raid, and tactical deployments, who goes where, for what reason, such insinuations are incorrect. It is for this reason that I'm saying I'm not able to speak on those. And in paragraph 5, several allegations placed before the Commission relate to communications said to involve me or my instructions, and I want to place on record that I didn't participate in any operational communication channels, nor did I use encrypted platforms for such alleged purposes. Then I address those matters in detail in subsequent sections.
Thank you, Minister. And then at paragraph 6, you then also deal with aspects that you say you don't necessarily have personal knowledge of those aspects, but you deal with them purely to assist the Commission with its factual reconstruction. Can you just explain what you mean by that at paragraph 6?
On paragraph 6, yes, the Commission has also been presented with extensive evidence relating to SAPS dynamics internally, allegations of criminal infiltration, and conduct attributed to certain senior officials, including Lieutenant General Sibia. And my knowledge of these matters arose only after they became a subject of evidence. In other words, I'm indicating that there isn't anything that I knew or I know internally, or I know anything about internally in relation to criminality and so on, until most of the things came to the fore in the Commission.
So in other words, you don't have personal knowledge of them, you weren't involved contemporaneously in anything relating to that, but based on what you became aware of subsequent through evidence before the Commission or the ad hoc committee, you will deal with that insofar as it may assist the Commission in reconstructing its facts.
Yes.
Thank you. Then if we can go to the section where you deal with your orientation into the Ministry of Police, which is on page 6 of your statement, starting at paragraph 14. And just to place it in context, at this stage you had already had 2 stints as a minister. Is that correct? Before you joined as Minister of Police?
That's correct.
Okay. Can you just then take us through what the orientation entailed and when you actually took office?
Before I do so, as you instruct, I do want to indicate that through all those positions, that public positions that I have had the privilege to occupy, from MEC, Premier, ministerial positions, I have never been accused of corruption, not once. This is the first time that I get accused of such, as alleged particularly on the 6th of July. Now, the orientation that I'm talking about was the orientation that got organized in the main by a national commissioner, together with his deputies and other senior officers and subs, shortly after we got sworn in as ministers, and together with the deputy ministers that I serve with. So we met police management on a meet and greet basis, and we planned how the orientation would unfold. And thereafter, we started without any waste of time, from just shortly, I think within a week, running those orientations from July up to December. But I must add that we went beyond December, even though it was no longer just pure orientation. It involved some discussions, some decision-making. In fact, even during the period of orientation, because it would be repetitive in some cases, getting to other levels of matters, we would then have discussions and in some cases take decisions during orientation, broadly speaking. But where there was an opportunity, we would then narrow down on particular issues. And we proceeded then until December. And I would say that a little bit beyond that in some cases. Now, what we were dealing with in the main during those orientations, it was structural and organizational matters. And I should take it that it was logical that as new people, newly appointed minister, we would have needed to know the layers of subs from national up to a police station, and also know the organization horizontally. And indeed, it was structural in nature in the main. Personally, I was interested on these matters because as soon as we got appointed, I had a sense that we would need to get into some of the challenges of subs that I had some distant understanding on, that were structural in nature, and therefore it was quite an opportunity for us to learn those. And there were particular dates when we would focus on a matter, like the 12th of June, 15th of July, the 14th of August, and the 19th of November, where in the main we're dealing with crime intelligence almost exclusively and so on. Now, because of a number of reasons, it was during that period, during those discussions and engagements, when one of the things that we picked up was that the head of crime intelligence is also the head of National Political Killings Task Team at the same time. Now, I did engage a little bit with that particular matter as we picked it up, as we picked it during that time, saying that how did it happen? I was asking a question and made a comment or a remark that it possibly was oversight when that decision was made. Lieutenant General Khumalo was first appointed as head of National Political Task Team, sometimes known as PKTT, and then in 2020, that was 2018, and then thereafter, in 2022, he was appointed as head of crime intelligence. Now, we then passed that particular matter after picking it up and making commentary about it. But we also got to know...
Minister, sorry,
Yes.
please hold your thought. Don't forget where you were. I get confused. My impression is that you use the royal we. We, although you are referring only to yourself. But sometimes on the odd occasion you will use I. And where you are in a meeting situation and you say, we decided, I'm not quite sure whether it's only you that decided, you as the minister, after being briefed by those you would be with, or whether it was a decision of all of you, you and the other people with whom you are at a meeting. So I get confused between the royal we and the singular I.
Well, yes, I was, when I used I was making reference to the question that I asked during that meeting and those engagements, which I assume to be in the interest of all of us who were there, particularly the ministry, meaning the two deputy ministers that...
So must I understand we to refer to more than just you? So it's not the royal we?
No. It is just us.
Thank you. Thank you
yes.
very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. And Minister, just while we're on that, at paragraph 15 of your statement, you refer to the participants in that orientation process. You say it's senior management of the police, and you identify General Masimola, and you say his deputy ministers. His deputies. So the National Commission and his deputies, would that have been General Sabia, Lieutenant General Sentimule, Lieutenant General Sabia, and Lieutenant General Musikiri?
Not exactly. Not Lieutenant General Sentimule, but his deputies are Lieutenant General Musikiri, Lieutenant General Sabia, and then there is an acting general in support services, Lieutenant General Nkhuwa. Those are the three deputies. But there is then CFO, who is at the same level as well, as the deputies in finance. It's just that normally when you talk about Deputy National Commissioners, you refer to the three, but she's actually there as well at the same level. So those are the people I'm referring to, but there would be other staff or other police officers depending on the matter at hand.
Thank you. And so insofar as you dealt with the dual role of Lieutenant General Khumalo, Dumisani Khumalo, and those discussions had arisen, who brought that tension up about his dual roles? Who was the person that raised that concern in the meeting?
I raised that concern myself politely, and it was a remark, but I considered it as a serious remark because I wouldn't have expected that there would be that dual role, not necessarily because of the load and other related matters, but because of the role that intelligence, crime intelligence plays in the country, which I regard as a 24/7 kind of work, very, very critical in terms of assisting police in the fight against crime. And we were later going to discuss it as we did, identifying crime intelligence as the main enabler among other enablers in terms of assisting police to fight crime in the country.
Okay, and at the time that you had raised that issue, were you aware that General Sabia had also raised that issue with General Masimola, that he thought that General Kumalo shouldn't have that dual role?
Not at all.
Okay, thank you, Minister. You may proceed.
Well, we were also briefed about long-standing organizational challenges that predated our appointment, including the task teams, various task teams, delays in taking some decisions and implementing them, especially relating to the work study that had been commissioned some time before. There was also some mention of murder and robbery unit. There were also other matters, including on human resource management, that we discussed there. Some of the discussions, of course, touched on matters relevant to the National Political Killings Task Team based in KwaZulu-Natal. For instance, in a meeting on the 1st of November 2024, the National Commissioner did inform me and the deputies, Dr. Oshielo and Mr. Castle Matale, that the National Political Killings Task Team wasn't a formal unit necessarily, but rather an interim task team. I will elaborate on this later on. Overall, my take during that orientation was that it was a fruitful 5-month kind of exercise by December to help us understand the department. On average, it takes about around five months to understand a department. It can take less, and you reach higher levels of command in terms of understanding a department. But you then go on to intensify your knowledge about all other various matters in the department. But that's more or less what it had taken me to understand that in terms of the period in other departments. Now, at the end of that period, for instance, in December, we felt quite empowered, particularly if I could speak on behalf of myself. I felt quite empowered to do, going forward, what I needed to do. And had some understanding of broader matters in a department. I want to go on to say that at this juncture, point out that it is worth noting that the National Commissioner's response in Parliament in 2023, when Ms. Z. Majosi of Inkatha Freedom Party asked him a question or questions relating to the then status of the South African Police Service and specialized task teams dedicated to combating specific types of crime. In this regard, the National Commissioner stated as follows: The SAPS is in the process of establishing dedicated murder and robbery units in the provinces as a specialized investigative response to these conduct crime categories, close quotes. National Commissioner's response intimated that murder and robbery units in provinces were still to be established. This was, however, inaccurate as the units were already established by 2023. The written reply was signed by both the National Commissioner and the former Minister of Police, PKTT, in December 2023, and it is attached and marked as an SM2. Now, the National Commissioner also explained that SAPS management envisioned that the National Political Killings Task Team would eventually be folded into a dedicated murder and robbery unit as part of broader consolidation process. The National Commissioner was aware, right from 2019, of a work study signed in June 2019 by the preceding National Commissioner General Stolle, which recommended the resuscitation of the murder and robbery unit and the absorption or envisaged absorption of the National Political Killings Task Team or functions into the permanent structure that had been, or the study of which was a result of the study that had been commissioned just a year before, that is 2018. Now, at no stage during my orientation or the briefings I received was I informed of any operation resembling the event later described. I'm jumping now to December 2024. At no stage we were briefed about that. No briefing was given to me about any arrests, operations, or tactical deployments involving NPKTT during December. I'm mentioning this because I take it as important at this stage. But my initial period in the portfolio therefore focused once more on organizational structures, focused on governance, and I must add systemic issues as well. But I pegged them under governance matters and requirements. We also dealt with accountability mechanisms within SAPS. We dealt with budgetary issues and what gets considered in terms of allocating a budget across the organization. And of course, we spoke about the need to consolidate temporal task teams within the South African Police Service. These issues formed the foundation for subsequent engagements, particularly in November and December 2024.
Thank you, Minister. Before we move on to the next topic, I just want to clarify two issues which may not be clear from your statement before you move on. In paragraph 17 of your statement, you refer to orientation-focused meetings that were held, and you say that there were recurring themes across sessions held on 12 June. You only started in July. So I just want to know, the 12 June, is that an error? You say that the announcement was made, you were appointed the 30th of June, and these orientation sessions happened in July 2024, but the first date in that paragraph refers to 12 June.
Yes, it would be.
Is it 12 July?
It would be 12 July.
Thank you. And then the second issue, just for clarity, at paragraph 24 of your statement, where you deal about the 6 December raid, you say that at no stage during my orientation or in the briefings that I received, in the paragraph 17 that we dealt with, you speak about sessions that seem to end on 19 November 2024, but you said earlier on that those sessions, the orientation sessions, went beyond December, correct?
Can you repeat that?
Yes. You said earlier on in your evidence that the orientation sessions went on beyond December. But in paragraph 17, you refer to certain sessions. If you can just go back to paragraph 17 of your statement where we just corrected the area. I just want to make sure that we understand what you're saying in paragraph 17. Are you saying in paragraph 17 that those specific dates mentioned there were sessions where the issue about the crime intelligence was raised? Or are you saying that those are the only orientation sessions that were held?
No, I was making an example that those days, those dates there was a focus almost on one particular issue, that is crime intelligence. And of course, we went up to December, but I do say that in certain aspects we did go beyond December, still on orientation, but the type of which involved decision-making, discussion, not just pure orientation at that stage.
Okay, and then just back to paragraph 24, so that is the orientation. You also say, at no stage during my orientation or in the briefings. Are you speaking to briefings as being something separate to orientation, or are you using it interchangeably? Where you say in paragraph 24, at no stage during my orientation or in the briefings.
Oh, yes, during my orientation or in the briefings, I'm using that interchangeably, but I know that each one has a specific meaning, but in the context, I'm just using them interchangeably.
Okay. And when you speak about at no stage during my orientation or in the briefings, are we referring specifically to the period 2024, or are you also speaking about January 2025, because you've now said in your evidence that the orientation process went beyond December?
I'm talking about, or I'm referring to the orientation period up to December.
Okay.
Yes.
So if we are to understand paragraph 24, what you're saying is at no stage during 2024 were you briefed about a 6 December raid, or are you saying that at no stage at all in your time as the Minister of Police were you briefed about the 6 December raid?
Probably I'm saying both, that we were not, or I was not briefed about any operation resembling, if you could underline that one, resembling what came to be described later on as the 6 December raid. That is to say, a briefing that would say on such and such a day, police will be mounting a particular operation of this nature, beyond operations like Operation Chanela, that you would hear about, but these other ones, specific ones, were confined to police only.
And am I correct to say that you're dealing with that aspect specifically because you would have heard the evidence of General Masimola and General Kumalo that on the 16th of January 2025 they had briefed you about this operation and the arrest of Mr. Katiso Molefe and the links with senior officials where General Sabia's name was specifically mentioned with criminal syndicate, links with the criminal syndicate?
Yes, although I will deal with those matters later on.
Thank you. Just wanted to clarify that. So then the next topic then is the establishment of the PKTT. You may proceed. It starts at paragraph 26 of your statement on page 9.
The National Political Killings Task Team, and I want to make reference to that, use that, but and explain it so that we have synergy. In all the documents that relate to this task team, it is referred to as the National Political Killings Task Team or the National Task Team, or in some specific cases called PKTT. I'm just saying this to remove any confusion, especially one that I picked up in another commission in Parliament, where there was sort of an outright denial that there's something called National Political Killings Task Team. And there are reasons for that, that it was called National Political Task Team. It refers to the budget. It refers to the leadership of the National Political Task Team, in particular, to make it virtually national. So it was established in 2018 by an inter-ministerial committee chaired by the Minister of Police. Now, the interministerial committee itself was appointed by the President of the Republic, President Cyril Ramaphosa. This was in response to a surge which had been building over time in KwaZulu-Natal, a surge in what came to be described as political killings, which refers to the murders or assassinations of people occupying political positions in that province, in some cases also together with officials in government structures. Now, there was then a concern that there was a surge, a noticeable surge, and it was like consistent. And the president then decided that he would appoint an interministerial committee, and he instructed them to work on a mechanism that would contain the situation and actually reverse that trend that was taking root at that particular time. Now, it was created as a special project, just like in the language in government, where a special project can be created in any department. And it was established through an exercise of executive authority. Now, I need to emphasize that it was established through, if you like, political intervention, where the president was using his executive powers to intervene in a situation as was necessary. It was not established in terms of Section 11(2)(d) of the Constitution of the Republic. Section 11(2)(d) of the South African Police Act 68 of 1995, which, in other words, a combination of the two, which empowers the National Commissioner to establish components or units within SAPS its creation was therefore political and time-bound, and it did not form part of SAP's permanent organizational structure. National Commissioner can establish a task team anytime he sees fit, and using the powers bestowed on him by the Constitution and by the Police Act. A provincial commissioner can also do so. Even at district level, such task teams can be established. But the National Political Killings Task Team wasn't one of those established by the National Commissioner. It was established through that political intervention in the exercise of executive powers by the President. Now, because the NPKTT was a project, it was always understood that it was interim in nature. It was never at any stage understood to be a permanent kind of setup. And I must distinguish between a team at this stage to clarify my point. It was never established as a unit. It was established as a team, actually a task team. Now, and there's a difference between a team and a unit in SAPS. And I'm explaining that because at one point when the commission was on and Major General Van Rooyen was asked a specific question in this regard, she said, if I remember correctly, she said there is no difference between a unit and a team. And there is a difference. Now, the NPKTT was established as a project. It was allocated a specific budget taken from various programs at the time. In other words, it was not budgeted for in a normal way where you budget for a program in a department. It had a team that had just been set up mid-year, and then a budget had to be found to make it move on as required. Now, as such, like the principles that apply to all other projects of government, it would require periodic extensions or assessments, not extensions, but periodic assessments. It would require a budget to run. It would require a period which would be at which it will end. There's no project that I'm aware of in government that runs indefinitely. They are all time-bound. Now, the initial mandate of the NPKTT was actually for 6 months, not 6 years, 6 months, from July 2018 to the end of the year. It was then extended from January to July 2019. And thereafter, they decided that if any extension, it would be annual. But initially, it was 6 months. That's why at the end of the first 6 months, there was an assessment. And it was decided consciously that there would need to be an extension, which was for another 6 months. Now, in 2020, there was COVID in the country, and there was no assessment that was made of the PKTT in that year. The following year, 2021, an assessment was conducted. And as required, and an extension signed off by the National Commissioner, and the National Political Killings Task Team was ultimately appointed or apportioned its funding for the relevant year because of its extension. Now, beyond 2022, because this was an extension between 2021 and 2022, there was no further extension that was sought. In the same manner, I should qualify that, as it had happened before. And there's marked differences when you look at the previous extensions and after 2022. As a result, the NPKTT continued to operate without a required assessment and renewal for more than 2 years. And I'm advised that the relevant expenditure during this period, beyond 2022, on the NPKTT is irregular under the PFMA. Act 1 of 1999. So what I'm explaining here is that the National Political Killings Task Team was a project. It had a project leader. It was not a unit in SAPS, and it had no budget allocated, but budget had to be found from other programs, even during extensions, to fund it. And it's at a clear objective. And it had to be subjected to regular assessments. And costs had to be calculated. At each time, there would be an extension, just like all other projects of government. And it was time-bound all the time, from the time it was conceptualized. It was never an open-ended. It was 6 months, and next 6 months, and next a year, and then next a year, but after 2022, there were no longer, I would say, proper assessments in the true sense of the word.
Thank you, Minister. You then have a subtopic, but before we get to that subtopic, at paragraph 31, you mentioned that you are advised. Are you speaking about advice that you had received at the time when you were considering the PKTT or having regard to the PKTT, or now that it was in violation?
I'm talking about now.
Now,
Yes.
Okay. You may proceed to the subtopic, which is the shift towards permanent structures. And you do set out here facts that, of course, you don't have personal knowledge of, but you do reference a work study, which you say you would have had knowledge of, because would that have been part of your orientation? Yes, if you could just deal with that briefly, please.
In September 2018, SAPS initiated feasibility studies for a new specialized investigative capacities, including murder and robbery, anti-gang taxi violence, and cold cases or cold case investigations. These findings were later consolidated in the 2019 work study. In 2018-2019, feasibility studies confirmed that political murders were already within the core mandate of murder and robbery capacities and didn't require a parallel temporal task team structure. The study set out a detailed minimum personnel and functional requirements that couldn't be met sustainably through temporal project team, in other words, on a project team basis, or on a project basis, rather. Now, on 26 June 2019, General Sithole approved the work study establishing the murder and robbery unit and other specialized unit as per the outcome of the work study commissioned, as I indicated above. The murder and robbery unit's mandate, including serial murders, police killings, political murders, murders of elderly persons, and attacks on farms and small holding. And I attach a copy for your reference as SM3. It outlines very, very well. And perhaps I should just explain it as you would see there. The component is called serious and violent crimes. Under it, there is a section called murder and robbery. And under murder and robbery, in terms of the list of mandates that murder and robbery would do under serious and serious and violent crimes, that is where you will find that list of mandates. And that list includes political matters, even at that stage. I had, you will see on page 12, all identified serial murders that I've been speaking to on the other page, murder and attempted murder, even murders committed against officials employed in the criminal justice system whilst in the execution of their duties. He then talks about police killings, as I've indicated, but next to that, political murders and attempted murders. And it goes down. These are mandates that were identified by the work study, which was translated into a structure, an organizational structure. Now, I won't go down there because it's clearer.
Minister, is there any significance that police killings, political murders, and
Sorry, Chair.
Sorry.
Just give the minister a moment. Yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
It falls. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Let me start again, Minister. You'll see that you have the various bullet points there.
Yes.
And each one of those, except the one that I'm going to talk about just now, appear to have one idea, as it were. But when it comes to police killings, you have bullet police killings, and on the same line, or in the same line, you have what looks like a bullet. So in a sense, it's a bullet within a bullet. Then you have political murders and attempted murders. Is there any significance in that, or is it a typo?
It is a typo because when you look at the structure itself, it has a box of its own.
Thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Minister. You may proceed. Do you want
Now-
to get
I've
to?
just, our minister, my co-commissioner, Commissioner Kumalo, has taken me to the original, the annexure itself, and there indeed there are separate bullets. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Minister, do you then want to deal with the work study and what, at paragraph 37, and what it effectively did?
This work study understood or conceptualized and understood in the manner that I've outlined by those who were dealing with it, effectively disestablished the NPKTT. Now, and established a single murder and robbery unit that would carry out the various functions of the different task teams under one umbrella. I must pause here and indicate that at one point, I don't know whether it was a month after I got appointed, I had the privilege of meeting former National Commissioner for another purpose. And I may as well indicate that the purpose was to deal with a problem that he had, or a problem that he had regarding his pension. And that meeting took place in September, where, or around that time. We were to discuss his complaint that he was not getting his pension. And we then had an informal chat. But I had asked him a question in the process. What is this thing called cold investigations? And then he explained, and in the process, he then took me through the work study and various matters, not in the form of a presentation, but as we were chatting. Now, I'm noting that because he didn't seem to be interested in serious and violent crimes more than in murder and robbery. That is where his emphasis were. Now, on 14 November 2019, as we continue, Major General Mzima signed an implementation letter, now implementing the work study that had been commissioned, that had now been translated into a structure, and now it was for implementation. And I want to go back to emphasize what I've just said, that according to those who were involved, once you implemented the structure, you now have murder and robbery under which you had those mandates, which meant you had sub-units under murder and robbery, sub-units. So these mandates would be carried out by sub-units. It meant that you wouldn't have PKTT or NPKTT as established in 2018. It would be absorbed into murder and robbery. So what she was signing, was then a letter giving the department a go-ahead. And the functions, therefore, contemplated in the work study were to be implemented in phases as per a 17% implementation. Little else can be expected. To a greater extent, there is 46 units not implemented, whereas 42 were only partially implemented. In other words, the detectives are operating under a complete deficit. There is overall 57% shortage of capacity, I close quotes. Now, this was a remark by one of the signatories to that work study, but I go to paragraph 45, which is important. of my statement. Again, fast forward to this year. On 5 June 2025, General Masimula, the National Commissioner, signed off the work study with the instruction that implementation must be expedited, as he said, making that remark. So if you look at it, it had taken the National Commissioner a full year to sign the implementation, which was now expedited from March 2024 to 2025, to June 2025. So it was a year-long lapse after everybody else had signed. Had he signed in March 2024, it would have meant that signing becomes an implementation of what had been agreed on in terms of specialized units as per the work study of 2019. And by this time, 2024, the units were there. They could have been at different levels of strength, but they were there by that time in 2024. Now let me talk about lapses.
Just to make sure I understand, Minister. So are you basically saying if General Masemula had signed off on the implementation in 2024, a unit like the NPKTT, as you call it, would have been dissolved as at 2024?
Yes, it would have been dissolved. It would have been dissolved, commissioners, for the simple reason that the NPKTT couldn't coexist with specialized units, one of which would be serious and violent crimes as a component, under which there would be murder and robbery, under which there would be a sub-unit called political killings. It would be an unnecessary duplication, and it would run against the letter and spirit of the work study as they adopted it in 2019, and wish to implement it all these years, as I say.
Thank you.
Minister, I'm here. If I may just ask on the back of this response to the chairperson, at paragraph 37 of the statement, you say that the work study effectively disestablished the NPKTT. Can you just explain that? Because my first understanding of that statement of yours is that beyond 2019, after that work study was adopted, beyond that period, there should never have been a PKTT. Is that a correct understanding of what you're conveying in paragraph 37?
Correct, but depending on their assessment of implementation of the implementation letter of 2019 in September, that would prove that the murder and robbery is now running in this and that and so on, provinces and at national, because the murder and robbery would be both at national and at provincial level. Once they determine that, then it would run, and by 2024, murder and robbery was there. And I can even go further to say, shortly after we got appointed, we ourselves started discussing with management a new organogram, a new organizational structure, which I will come to later. And it was emphasized there that no, in fact, we do have murder and robbery. We do have this and that unit, but I'll come to that later on.
Thank you.
Now, so the summary in paragraph 45, in the summary is that one of the things that would have happened, therefore, is that the functions of PKTT and other units would be transferred to the units that would have been established as per the work study and implementation. Now, I need to lift my head here and say the simple process, it would have been just a simple process in a department to say, I imagine they would even possibly not want to talk about disbandment. They might have chosen to say, it's absorption. It's an internal departmental kind of process in the light of the internal processes, organizational processes that would have taken place, and they would merely have done that kind of implementation on themselves. And I would make an example of one unit that we disestablished in the process of orientation in 2024 without much ado. Now, I want to proceed. I'm now, I was just addressing in passing the lapses. Sometimes, commissioners, in the departments that we run or are appointed to run, you do from time to time come across lapses. Other lapses have minor impact and minor consequences, but other lapses have bigger consequences depending on the case at hand.
Sorry, Minister, I don't want to break your flow, but when you are looking at the work study, please at some point consider 8.10 of the recommendations. It will be on page 201 of the annexures. Just make a note for yourself, Minister, and then at some point. But it deals with the very subject you are addressing now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Commissioner. Now, let me go to, so in the meantime, I do make that point as part of paragraph 46 as part of expansion. In the meantime, we had started, as I've pointed out, the reviewing of the organizational structure, which is now in line with the 7th administration. So that is what was happening. Now, I then deal with organizational placement and budget implications. Well, I make reference, I know commissioners have ease of reference in the structures. I had intended putting it in a screen for clarity, because I know that you are being followed as a commission by many, many people in the country who may want to understand what is that we're talking about, but maybe we don't have luxury of time on our side.
We do have it, Minister. We can project it. Thank you.
I would love that we display that. I won't go to all the boxes. I'll just make a reference to what we're talking about only.
Thank you.
Ms. Sigels, aren't we going to see it?
We are
across the-
going to, Chair. And just for the benefit of the commissioners, the hard copy is also in the exhibit bundle CJC 55, which would have been provided to you. It could be file 2 of 2. It's the exhibit correspondence and documents bundle.
I would have loved a pointer if you have it. Sorry, I have a question late.
Unfortunately, we don't have a pointer, Minister.
Okay, I'll use my finger.
You can refer, and then she will circle it.
Ms. Ngcukaitobi, can this be expanded here? We can hardly see a thing.
More?
So this is you'll see this is the structure signed this year. Now I do need to clarify this point because someone said Minister Mchunu is misleading the public, disbanding National Political Task Team in 2024 and making reference to a structure signed in 2025, so that I don't mislead that particular person and the public. The structure, the new organizational structure, we completed last year before the end of the year, a reviewed organizational structure. But there are processes that involve labor that took some time into the new year, leading up to the official signing on that date. But the structure had been agreed on internally in 2024. So what you see there is as we had decided on or agreed on right in 2024, but now it's then indicated as such. But I want to go to the division that deals with detectives, the detective section. There's another slide. If you could move to another slide, that will make things clearer. What we are talking about. If you would start counting the boxes from left. Oh, okay. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you. It's in the signed one that I said we completed it last year, but then signing got a little bit delayed because of various processes. So there are other units, but in terms of mandates of murder and robbery, there is there, even if it's not indicated there, those mandates that are in bullets, but there it just shows murder and robbery. Thank you. So, I would. It's duplicated even at provincial level as well, national and provincial. Then I would go to paragraph 53.
Are you done with the organogram?
Yes.
Okay.
You can
They'll just take the handheld
please
mic
switch
from
on
you.
Please switch on those
sorry.
mics.
Thank you.
Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you. So I now,
Sorry, Minister?
yes.
Before you move on to 53, what does it mean practically when you say the structure was approved in 2024, but it was still to be subjected to engagement with unions? Can you just explain what is the effect of that?
Well, just drawing from my experience while I work for public service and administration, and I don't want to point a finger to labor, but it does delay because you do the macro structure inside a department, and then you do the micro, meaning you negotiate internally with placements of people as per the new structure. Once those processes have been completed, you effectively have a structure. But you still have to take that structure to labor, that is triple SPC, to say, here is a proposed structure by the department. You are now talking to external partners, labor, as it is. Now, good as it is, but it delays the impact. I even went out of my way, persuaded the leadership of labor to say, could you give us a discount in terms of the period of consultations and all of that? Not necessarily to say I was undermining labor, but I was saying because of the pressures that we had, for which we reviewed the structure. When we reviewed the structure, we're not ticking a box. We had something specific in mind because of the pressures that we had, which I'll go to later on. So it has an impact.
Yeah, I guess what I'm trying to understand is this is signed in 2025, on a date in 2025. Does it mean that until then, there was no structure to implement? The SAPs could not implement this until the unions have had their say in the obligatory consultation process.
There is never, Commissioner, there is never a period where there is no structure. The old structure would be in place until signing, which replaces the old one.
Yes, I realize I spoke clumsily. Let me try and neaten it up a bit. You have a structure already in place. By the time in 2024 you adopt this new structure.
Yes, internally.
That's internal. It must now go through the union process.
Yes.
Because that's what a collective agreement requires.
Yes.
Now my question is, until the unions have had their input into this internally approved new structure, until the unions have had their input, you can't implement this new structure. That's what I'm trying to understand.
Legally, yes, you can't implement.
Thank you.
You can't implement legally.
Thank you, Minister.
Paragraph 53. The main features of the new organizational structure. Now, first, just to pass that, as we dealt with the new structure, we were conscious, we were made conscious, and we were aware that we have a very fertile basis on which to do the renewal, the review. We're not going to start afresh. There is a structure, as I've indicated, it has a long history, but we can look at the imperatives of the seventh administration and perhaps add what we think are the imperatives that would enhance or build on the structure that was there. Now, these from 53.1 to 53.5 are the new things that were introduced in the existing structure. Number one, we dealt with division visible policing services, which we agreed we needed to divide into two, so that there is visible policing services on one hand and operational response services, but from one structure. You now have two. And the reason for that is that when we analyzed this, we found that when you look at crime in South Africa, you need to fight crime in a way that is adjusted, structural, in terms of the organization structure, that is in line with the crime trends in the country. Now, crime trends in the country go beyond, in terms of the need to fight, it goes beyond visible policing alone, that is police in uniform and in police station. They do a lot of work. But there are certain forms of crime and types of crime that require more than that. And then we decided that you need to sharpen the combative side of SAPS. And units were there and are there. Not that we're going to start afresh. So you would now have almost three categories if you decide that ORS, as they call it, Operational Response Service, is now a division of its own. You would have uniform police frontline, especially on the preventive side, which is the commandate of SAPS in terms of the law. And then they would be backed by specialized units to do particularly investigative work. And then thirdly, they would be backed by ORS, the combative units. Those are your task force, your National Intervention Unit, your POP. Those are people who give SAPS the combative capacity to fight crime, especially in crime-ridden areas where there's almost resistance over a period. So you would have three lines. That was our thinking. But we found that even after deciding on ORS, officials told us that, we did have ORS at some point. We didn't have time to find out why was it removed? Why did you do away? Why did you disband it, this unit? Because from where I sit, it was important to have ORS as a division on its own instead of lumping it just together. Because if you lumped it, one of the things we found, it takes up 53% of the budget, this division, if it's not divided alone, division, visible policing service, 53% of the budget goes to this one alone. And it has got all these units, and no proper attention is given at the end of the day because people are overstretched. Now, what other feature was there other than dividing this and coming up with a new division called ORS, which was there before? It's the removal of police inspectorate, which was a unit. It was there when we started discussing. It's not a team. It's a unit. It is in the structure. It is an old structure that was there even before democracy. So we had a small conversation, a short conversation, to say, what do these people do? They wear uniform, they wear boots, and then in the main they're in the office. Then they do work. Then we said, no, we want boots in the street and that uniform. And it was agreed that we are agreeing to disestablish the police inspectorate. And if you look at the structure that has been signed, You no longer have police inspectorate. It's a unit, it's not a team. So when people say, why and how do you disestablish a unit or a team? It's a fair question, or in a democracy, to talk, but it's not like you can't do it, that it can't be done. We did it. The whole unit in the organizational structure. 3, what else did we introduce? Is establishment of specialized units. This is more or less endorsement of what was there. We said it's a good thing that we have it, including all these components that I've spoken about. What else did we add? We relocated the division supply chain from where it was to report directly under Chief Financial Officer for better accountability in subs. I listened to our CFO when she appeared in the commission. She said a lot of irregular component.
Was it not in Parliament
yeah.
before the ad hoc committee?
I'm sorry, Chair and Commissioners. It was in the ad hoc. I listened to her speaking. She says, in response to a question, no, most of our irregular expenditure over years comes from supply chain. And it continues to be like that. So when we observed this, we observed it as a weakness that the Divisional Commissioner of Supply Chain reports directly to the National Commissioner outside of the CFO. And the CFO is supposed to be the one who talks more about finances in terms of accountability of the department and other processes as a CFO, like it happens in other organizations. And CFO is in charge of 120 billion now of subs budget. Now you can't then spend it in a manner that CFO can't be seen to be in charge, and you just make supply chain manager or divisional commissioner, commissioner in this instance, report directly to the National Commission. So we were doing this consciously to improve accountability so that we can change the situation. Now, these are the new features which are in line with the imperatives of the sixth administration. And when it comes to finances, we regard it that it's part of policy for which the minister is responsible, and minister is responsible, minister is responsible. How do you allocate the resources and how do you account for them? It was for that reason. I'll jump the rest and maybe go to paragraph 56. To say, by late 2024, therefore, the National Operational Center was required to absorb NPKTT costs amounting to approximately 95 or 94 million for the 2024-2025 financial year. And when that submission was made to the financial officer, Lieutenant General Timpane, she recommended that this amount that was requested at that time be reduced to 20 million. And that the task team be disbanded, particularly after 2024 elections, and then a work study to determine its future be undergone to determine its future. And we have the copy of the commentary, just like we have made direct quotations from other lieutenant generals to help the commission to understand what we are talking about. Now, National Commissioner subsequently approved a reduced allocation and so on. So indicating that we don't have a straight line in funding the National Political Killing Stars team right from 2018 up to this particular period. You make requests, you make memorandum, and so on and so on. Now, I pass this section.
Thank you, Minister.
Afternoon, Commissioners. It's brought to my attention that it's now, I think, gone past 4. Might this be an appropriate time for an adjournment?
Are we going to be
We started
much,
a new
going-
topic thereafter, sorry.
but still on the
Still PKTT.
The PKTT.
Yes.
Are we still going to be much longer? Ms.
If I may just confirm.
No, yes, Mr.
Chair, if I may. Not too long. We are quite mindful of the time we have.
Yes.
I can't venture a guesstimate right now, but perhaps if we could have I would have an opportunity to confer with Advocate Sigal Ncube, and tomorrow we will give you an indication. But the objective is to be completed with Minister Mchunu, including engagement on questions by evidence leaders by Thursday. It remains an objective, and ours is to structure a plan to achieve that objective.
Please remind me, what do we have on Friday morning? Because what we were told in chambers is that Mr. Ngcukaitobi's re-examination will only be in the afternoon on Friday. Or was it repeated here? I'm not sure
Yes,
now.
I think he did. Yeah.
Yes.
He confirms it.
Yes. On Friday morning, what do we have?
We had a witness scheduled, but this afternoon we received an application for postponement to a later date, and that can only then now be next year.
Yes.
So we are still to apply our minds to that application. We think that solid reasons have been put forth for such a postponement, and once presented to the commissioners, is most likely to succeed.
Yes.
So on that basis, I think I can say that there is nothing currently scheduled for Friday morning if that application for a postponement is granted.
All right. I'm asking because I think that may give us time,
Some breathing space.
to have the minister's testimony before the re-examination completed.
And we'll take that on
Gives
board.
us,
We'll
yeah,
take that on
enough
board. Thank you, Chair.
If you're still going to be much longer and you are not able to tell us that you are not, so perhaps we should take the adjournment at this stage and
Yes, Chair.
resume at with the minister at 9:30 on Thursday.
Thursday.
On Thursday.
Correct.
And tomorrow morning?
Tomorrow we have Brigadier Mkhwanazi continuing with the EMPD stream.
All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Let us adjourn till 9:30 tomorrow morning.
Thank you, Chair.